Hey all, it's your friendly neighborhood advisor here, Alexander Quinn, and today I'm going to be giving you 3 tips on how to become an entrepreneur. Alright, so tip number 1 is going to be to start with your retirement goal and work backwards. So first figure out what retirement looks like to you, what your goals actually are. Do you want to be financially free? Do you want to have to not worry about paying bills? Do you want to have a big house, small house? How much is that estimated to cost, including the furniture and tech? You don't need an exact amount, but just get a rough idea. In fact, just do a guess because you can't guess what inflation is going to be like and all of that anyway. You can't predict the future. So do a rough estimate, just get something on paper, and then later on you can determine if you want to get more accurate, and down the road, if you look like you're getting close or maybe halfway there, then maybe take another guess at it while you're closer and more familiar with it. So this is super important. A lot of people come to me and ask me about which business they should go into, what I think is going to work, etc. And it's really interesting because everyone who comes to me has their own ideas of what businesses to go into, and they typically have 3. And when they present them to me, it's always some different things. There's not a whole lot of commonality to them. And so what I find interesting is that they're not focused on their goal. They're just focused on these things that they think could make them money or that they might have an advantage. That's not an unwise way to go about it. That is a smart way to approach it in general, but you do need to make sure you're going to achieve your goal. You need to make sure that you're going to have a business, not a job. The difference is a business is something you can sell or walk away from or hire a CEO to do all the work for you. Not a job, something that requires you. If you leave, then the whole thing falls apart. Okay, so you should make sure that you know what it is you need, how much money you need, how far away it is, when you expect to retire, etc., how much salary you want to have in the end, how old you think you'll live to be. You can also determine that, or a rough guess, just by going on Google and searching up a insurance company calculator on your estimated how long you're going to live. Something like that. Get a rough estimate, or just kind of ask AI, etc. Just get a rough guess, and again, after a couple of years, you can jump back and maybe revisit some of the biggest numbers or the numbers you think you can get an accurate hold on, and just touch those up. But in the meantime, just kind of get a rough estimate. Determine if it's going to mean that you don't have to pay bills, that you do or don't have to work, at what age it's going to be, how many years you're going to need that salary, and how expensive you're going to want your house to be. That's going to be pretty big too. Once you determine that, you can look at what your avenues are that you want to go into and determine how synergistic they are with what you want to do, things that you enjoy doing, things that you have an interest in doing. So if you are okay with putting in some work and you want to possibly either build some software or go into real estate or do some stock day trading, whatever it is that you want to do, look at those options that you think will get you to your goal and see which of those you prefer to do. Because if you are motivated to do it, or if you have an interest in doing it, or if you wouldn't mind doing it for an extended period of time, then it usually is a good lead of something to try out or consider at least. Because we don't typically think of things that we least want to do. Even if you know that your buddy makes a ton of money, tossing garbage, you're not going to probably do that unless it was a short term. But to get to your goal, you also might need to have a plan to get there as well. So if you choose real estate and you need to put some money down initially to just put a down payment on a property, whether it be house hacking or whatever it is, then you're going to need to get that down payment to begin with. So then you're going to have to plan some time and money to put away for that. So know what your end goal is and then work backwards. That's tip number 1. All right, tip number 2. Okay, test before you invest. Whatever you go into, you want to try it out first. Whether it be stocks and you do some paper trading first, that means that you basically pretend to trade stocks, and instead of using money, you use paper, and you just kind of see where that ends up. If you want to go into real estate, then maybe you should try either renting out a room or maybe try house hacking first before you go. If you want to maybe rent out all of your rooms, I did that for a bit. That actually made a ton of money. It had 10 times the profit of if I had just rented out a home by itself. And I got to live on the property in a utility closet, but still it was enough for me at the time. It was better than being homeless, which is what I was used to. I was making $1,600 a month after paying everything and repairing everything on the home, including roofs. But if you want to go into it, you should probably try something smaller first. You should try just renting out one room and see how that goes. Or try the typical house hacking where you get a duplex and you live in one side and rent out the other. A lot of people manage to get that to work where what they're charging is about the same as what the whole place costs, so they basically live for free. That's a great option a lot of people like. I don't like it because the profit margins are lower than any other avenue, but the reason they're lower is because everybody wants it and likes the idea. It's comfortable. You have a place to live for free. I mean, what's not to like about it? It's great. It's an awesome option. A lot of people like it. Me, I was more after the money than the convenience. The convenience is nice, but also I didn't need a whole lot of space. I came from being homeless. So maybe that's why I chose an avenue that most people don't. But whatever works for you, that's what you need to figure out. Figure out what works out for you and test before you invest. Make sure that it's the right thing for you before you go into it. A lot of people think that they can handle this type of stuff, and they really can't, especially tenants. Tenants are pretty wild, and that is putting it very lightly and very mildly. Everyone will make their problems your problems somehow, even if you keep things simple and you just say, hey, here's what I agree to give you, we sign a contract, etc. They will find a way. So just test before you invest, whatever it is that you're doing. Look into it a little bit, see if there's some way that you can make sure you have the skills first, get up at the right times, pretend to go through the motions and movements, make sure you can get up and motivate yourself on weekends before you decide to quit a day job that makes you come in on time. Make sure you're not hitting the snooze button because you're your own boss now. You don't get to hit that snooze button. Otherwise, you will let yourself hit the snooze button. That's a big indicator. If people who typically hit the snooze button before they go off to work, when they need to be their own boss, they tend to keep hitting it because there's no one there to say, hey, now you get up. In fact, we usually say, hey, it's 6 o'clock, I'm going to get up. And then we hit the snooze button anyway. So we already are being our own boss at that time, and we don't get moving until someone else is going to hold us accountable or until someone else depends on us. But anyway, it's actually a lot harder to do things on your own. It's a lot harder than you would think. But a lot of people that go to college have an easier time with it because if you remember going from high school to college, the main difference that I found is that while college was about as difficult as high school, it was way easier. The work was way easier. Everything was easier. And no one forced you to do anything or really expected you to do anything. Put the assignments on some board that you check and you either do it or you don't. But you have to motivate yourself to get there and be there. And if you're late to class, then some classes don't let you in. A lot of them don't let you in. And you don't need to show up to class, but you probably should. So, yeah, college was a lot harder and a lot easier. The work was easier, but motivating yourself is harder if you're not used to it. And we always think that we're going to do it until we have to. And it's surprising how hard it is. Test before you invest. Make sure you can do it before you just run right into it. So tip number 3 is to solve people's problems instead of the problems of people. So whatever you do, you're solving someone's problem. If you're going to rent out a property, then you are renting to someone who is looking for a place. Typically, whatever you're doing for a business, if it has anything to do with people, then you want to figure out what problem you're solving of theirs instead of the problem being, you trying to adjust your solution and figuring out, what can you do better or different. That's an okay way to go about it, especially if you are good at analyzing or if you just have good business sense in general. But usually it works out much better if you figure out what problem you're solving and focus on that. Figure out how you can do that particularly better because they're paying you for the convenience of solving a problem because you're replacing something that would be more inconvenient for them otherwise. So stay focused on that. Anyway, I hope this helps someone out there. You all take care, get to be entrepreneurs, and have a wonderful day.